And with me to present is Kim Baden-Kristensen. How are you doing, Kim?
We're doing great, thanks.
Fine. I just want to remind you that after your presentation, I will come back with a few questions. So, Kim, please go ahead.
Thank you. So Brain Plus is a Danish so-called digital therapeutics company, which means that we have a focus on medical interventions and therapies. And in particular, our mission is to prevent and treat cognitive decline for people with dementia. Next slide, please. So unfortunately today, most of us know somebody with dementia, either in our close family or relatives or in our circle of friends. It touches everybody's lives. There are 55 million people who are suffering from dementia today, and this is a number that will triple over the next couple of decades. It is already one of the most costly diseases in the world on a total scale and in terms of the per patient cost of somebody with dementia. The total cost is about 40 times that of the Swedish GDP on a global basis, or is becoming that. And it is associated with very, very big difficulties and heavy burdens for the families affected, and of course for the people with the disease themselves. Right now, there's a big scarcity of treatment, and most people don't believe that there are treatments for dementia. And while it's true that we cannot cure the disease, there are actually treatments with a lot of strong clinical evidence behind them. Next, please. One of those therapies is called cognitive stimulation therapy. And today it is the world's leading therapy, non-drug therapy, that is, where it's not using medicine, but is using a behavioral intervention. And this intervention results in a 6-month delay in cognitive decline for people with dementia. This is a significant improvement in the quality of life for people who undergo this therapy. The way they receive it is that they, over 7 weeks, meet for 14 sessions, about 45 minutes to an hour each session, with a therapist present to guide them through a number of structured activities. This stimulation is then designed to have maximum activation of their brain and specific networks there, and has consistently showed that it has this effect, including improvements on quality of life, improvements on communication of the people who participate, and improvement on cognition on standardized, recognized dementia scales. In fact, there are so many studies now on cognitive stimulation therapy that it has 2 Cochrane reviews out, which is the gold standard for evidence for some therapy, like this one. And this has resulted in the therapy now being globally recommended by the World Alzheimer's Report and the World Alzheimer's Association. It's also highlighted by the WHO. This therapy is now being adopted in 38 countries, but a lot of people are completely unaware of it, and so are a lot of the health systems. So what we are doing is we are digitalizing this therapy, and this is addressing a number of the key barriers to its adoption, and it is resolving a number of key pain points for the therapists and for the health systems, including the healthcare payers. Next slide, please. So what it really does is that it saves the therapist an enormous amount of time in preparation for these sessions, which currently they spend several hours doing before each session. And particularly newly trained therapists in this therapy spend a lot of additional time even getting ready for it. So our product is delivering all the content, all the structure, it's guiding the process, and it is adapting the content of each session to the abilities of the participants of that particular group. And this is enabling the healthcare systems to deliver more of this therapy with fewer hands, which, as we'll see, is one of the major challenges that the healthcare systems are facing today. Next slide, please. So far, we have launched this about a year ago in Denmark, which is our home market, to get evidence, get data, get traction, get experience from the market, and so far have had good traction. We have traction for implementing this product already in 16 municipalities, out of which 6 of those are sales, actual contracts to these municipalities, and the rest are implementation grant funded by a grant, 3.5 million DKK grant, which is another way to secure payment for these types of innovative products for implementation in these municipalities. So we went on market with what we call a minimum sellable product, which was in our view, fairly simple product. And now we're getting ready with the second version of that product, and we're getting ready to take that to a much larger and more important market for us, but have shown and learned what we needed from our initial year in the home market, which we will, of course, continue to grow. But we're shifting focus to a market with much more potential, which we have been preparing for the last couple of years. Next slide, please. In order to be ready for this, we're coming out with a second version of our product, where we're moving from a minimum sellable product to a product that's fulfilling not 100%, because it's still an ongoing product market fit exercise, as it always is. But in our evaluation, 90% of the most important needs and meeting the most important pain points of the therapists who are providing cognitive stimulation therapy out there. This includes the product being certified as a Class 1 medical device. And what that means is that we can now claim that the product is providing the same health benefits as the original therapy itself, which is important, of course, in terms of being able to access doors, open access to healthcare payers and reimbursement, and for us, very importantly, to be ready for the market that is most mature in terms of adoption of this therapy, which is the United Kingdom. And we have co-developed this very thoroughly with the most important experts on this, both in the UK, in Denmark, in Germany, for that matter, and have already completed the Danish usability trial. We'll complete a usability trial in the UK starting Q1, and we'll then be introducing this new version of the product in Denmark in Q2 and in the UK in Q3. Next slide, please. We have, not only from the user testing we've done and from, of course, the initial traction with the first version, which is much simpler, already gaining a lot of excitement from both the experts and the users about this product. So it's both shown in the traction, and it's also shown in the testimonials we're getting from the world's most important key opinion leaders in this topic that we're collaborating with. Next slide, please. Brain Plus has been in existence for a while, but it's only been the last 3 years we have focused on dementia. And this was since our IPO in late 21. Since then, we have now created the first and now coming out with the second version of this dementia product called the Therapist Companion, which is helping the therapist provide this therapy, which is making us ready for entering the most attractive market with the highest ROI in the world for us, which is the UK. Besides that, we have a number of other building blocks in our portfolios, technologies that have been proven in usability studies and proof of concepts, which will feed into later products in our pipeline. We have also spent this time getting ready with the regulatory and reimbursement work that is necessary to enter a market like the UK, and will be ready as a medical device in Q2 as well, and then ready to launch in Q3. But we've also built a number of competitive assets which are just as important as the products and the compliance, which is to be very, very close with the world's leading key opinion leaders, both for developing the best products in the world and having all that expertise in the products, but just as much for endorsement and door opening, particularly in the United Kingdom, that we're focusing on. We have also taken out intellectual property rights and are being integrated. Our product is being integrated in the official educational institutions that is training new therapists in this therapeutic method, which means that it is, in the eyes of new therapists, the way to do this therapy will be with our product. Next slide, please. In terms of the competitive situation, looking at it from two perspectives. One is, what are the other therapeutic alternatives out there to cognitive stimulation therapy? Here there are things like music therapy, reminiscence therapy, cognitive training, and light-based neuromodulation. So these are all relevant therapies, but in terms of the clinical relevance and the impact and the evidence level, really there's cognitive stimulation therapy is second to none today. This is why, as we are looking at its adoption right now across the world and the recommendations from the policy bodies like Alzheimer's Association and WHO, it is by far the leading standard and is becoming the global standard for non-drug dementia therapy. And from that perspective, in terms of other digital providers, why there are other providers in these other areas, these other therapy areas, we are the only commercial company right now doing cognitive stimulation therapy. It will not be like that forever, just like for anybody who knows in mental health, the role of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a gold standard there and is now maturely adopted across a number of markets. And now there are many players there. There will eventually come other players into this market as well for CST or cognitive stimulation therapy for dementia. But right now we have a clear lead and have a clear lead in terms of our collaborations and our adoption and traction in the market. There are also alternatives like medicines. Next slide, please. That I will cover in another slide in just a second. But if we look and just broadly look at the industry, which is digital therapeutics, just like life science and in particular biotech has suffered from the headwinds in the financial markets the last couple of years, the same has been the case in digital therapeutics. There has been a shakeout, which means that a handful of companies have been acquired, have gone out of immediate business and have then been acquired. Most of them actually have been acquired by other players, and a number of players have made it through and have thrived in this situation. And so based on that, there are a number of success factors that have been learned. And one of them that I want to highlight is the fact that the companies that really succeed have been the ones that have digitalized already proven therapies, which is the same that we're doing with cognitive stimulation therapy and dementia. Next slide, please. And so in terms of some of the alternative drugs that are there for Alzheimer's, there have actually been a couple of breakthroughs in the last couple of years with disease-modifying drugs for Alzheimer's. And here, there's already evidence in terms of combining cognitive stimulation therapy with Alzheimer's drugs that shows that there is an enhanced overall effect of that combination, which means that one of the interesting avenues for our therapy in the future and our products is to combine that with some of the Alzheimer's drugs. And we are in ongoing talks with the Alzheimer's pharma companies about this. Next slide, please. So looking at the different markets that we are operating on, United Kingdom has been on our roadmap for a while. And now that we have or are coming out with the second version of the product, we're ready to enter that market. One of the reasons it's the most important market for us for our first product is that it is a place in the world where we have the most widest adoption of cognitive stimulation therapy, with 6,000 trained therapists there and a large penetration in the national health system of the United Kingdom. Besides that, it is also Europe's most mature market in terms of digital health adoption. And this is the market we can go to achieve scale in return on marketing investment, because the deals we can make over there, naturally for size reasons, are much more attractive than they are in a country like Denmark. And so the possibility for scaling is larger. But UK also has very high quality standards, which is why we've been working very hard to meet those standards and fulfill all the regulatory requirements, including the MDR medical device certification and so forth, which means that we're basically ready to enter this market this year, and we'll be meeting these major milestones in the coming quarters. Next slide, please. And UK is also the country in Europe and one of the countries in the world that is putting dementia the highest on the political agenda, which is also a key success factor actually for digital therapies actually having success in the market, which means that there will be budgets allocated for the adoption of such therapies. And here our products fit directly into the top priorities of the national healthcare systems, which is why we have already been met with a lot of enthusiasm and excitement from the UK organizations when we have toured and have gone out looking for partners, which we now already have in place for that market. Next slide, please. So the line of sight to our first customers in the UK is already clear. We are running the local usability pilot there here in Q1 starting and ending in Q2, which will give us the necessary data on UK ground besides the data that we already have from other markets. We will be meeting the UK regulatory requirements, working with specialists there, and we will be collaborating with NHS trusts to pilot our products in the UK with the aim of coming to the first NHS trust sale. And NHS trust is a region. There are about 215 of those trusts in the United Kingdom, and they're responsible for providing, among other things, dementia care. So first goal is to have the first sales to a handful of those trusts, and the first sales will likely be in the range of 10 to 30,000 UK pounds, and then scale to more trusts, reaching higher amounts of higher contract levels of 30 to 50,000 pounds. But these are just the first steps, you can say. In the UK, there are even larger scaling potentials. And as you can see, we have the partners for this, including Quiddity Health, which is the leading digital health market specialist who has taken other digital health company successfully into the UK, including companies that at this point in time have had over 1 million patients in service in the UK. Next slide, please. To achieve this end, we have a strong team which is specialized not only in developing digital therapeutic products, but also specialized in creating medical devices and medical technologies. And for those investors experienced in biotech and medtech, you know the level of expertise it requires not only to produce a great product, but also to live up to all the regulatory requirements that put you in a special place and lift you out of the sea of health apps out there and into actually being a medical product with a clinical benefit that can be reimbursed by healthcare payers. So not only do we have a strong leadership team, we also have a strong team of specialists behind that leadership team to actually deliver on the operational side. Also a very strong board, as you can see, with very, very heavy experience, not only in pharma, but also in digital health. Next slide, please. And so looking ahead in 2024, there is a very clear step-by-step plan in terms of what we need to achieve. As you can see, we already have achieved a number of the key steps that we need to complete in Q1, and we're ready for basically entering the next couple of quarters, working to get ready for the UK entry in Q3 2024. And the aim there is to close the first sales this year. And of course, we'll still be working on our Danish businesses as well. But by the end of 2024, we will have proof of business in a market that has enough scaling potential to take Brain Plus all the way to being a profitable company with sustainable income in the UK market alone. And this is before we look at expanding to the rest of the world. And we will have, besides that, we still have an advanced and interesting product line that we can work on to add more value. Next slide, please, just to take you on the journey to show you what are some of the big steps. So in 2024, some of the big steps is the launch of the version 2 of the Therapist Companion product. It is a medical device certification, and it is the entry and scaling in the UK, including the first sales, giving us access to a market with an estimated market potential of 250 million or 250,000 Danish kroner. We will then be launching version 3 of the Therapist Companion product next, And as we projected right now, we're projecting a UK market break even in terms of return on marketing investment in 2026. From there, we will continue and eventually we'll launch the home care product, which allows this therapy to be done in people's own homes with the help of relatives, basically reducing even further the need for involvement of therapists in the healthcare system, making the product and the therapy much more widely available, much more scalable, etc. So while there's still then huge potential then in the second largest market in the world, the US, and eventually global expansion, we start with the UK and we keep our focus there until we have succeeded in scaling and becoming profitable. Eventually, we also have a product for the earlier stages of Alzheimer's, which is for mild cognitive impairment, which is a diagnosis that you get and the stage right before you get your dementia diagnosis. Huge market, huge need also, with about 3 to 4 times as many people actually suffering from this as people diagnosed with dementia. This is, by the way, also where most of the Alzheimer's drugs are effective as well, as in this segment. And with that said, just to summarize, we have a unique competitive position with a therapy that is becoming the world's leading standard for non-drug dementia care. We are entering a value inflection in 2024 by being ready to scale in the world's most attractive high return on investment market for us and the most mature market in terms of digital health adoption. We have all the pieces in place to succeed with this, including the team. We have all the right partners. We have key opinion leader endorsements and collaborations in those markets. We have a clear go-to-market roadmap. So we're basically just ready to execute on that plan. And with that said, I think we are ready for some questions.
Thank you very much, Kim. We continue with the UK market. What challenges do you in Quiddity Health anticipate when launching CST Therapy's companion in the market?
Yeah, I think one of the mistakes that we've seen a lot of companies do over the years, that they enter the UK without any local support. And that means that you make all the mistakes in the book. That's one of the reasons we partnered with Quiddity Health, is that they have a portfolio of over 20 companies that they've helped into the UK, and they know the ins and outs of what is needed to succeed in terms of the requirements of the different UK players. And not only the players, also the payers, the ones that are paying for the product. And one of the key things is to generate the right data and evidence early on, right from the start, so you don't have a delay on that side, and to make sure you have all the right regulatory requirements in place, because some of those are actually voluntary, while some of them are not. But if you have them in place, then you will expedite your time to market significantly. So that's one of the key reasons that we partnered with Quiddity, was to anticipate any obstacles that we might encounter on the way. I think the existing traction from the home market and the co-development of the version 2 of our product with the United Kingdom experts and clinicians means that we have also anticipated a lot of the potential roadblocks that we would otherwise meet in the UK. Nevertheless, as any medical device or a product or company will experience, there will always be a need to adapt to the local patient pathways and way of doing things. And there are even differences within each NHS trust in how they do things. So this is one of the things that we really need to be prepared for and be able to operate in. But once we have that, and once we have the initial traction of the NHS trusts, we start generating the evidence to move it up to an even higher level. And the next step from there is what we call regional commissioning in the UK. So the UK also has 42 so-called integrated care systems. Each of those care systems are responsible then for a number of these 200 plus trusts. And if one of those care systems decide to commission our product, then that is commissioned across all those trusts in that care system. And once you have the first care system, you can more easily get commissioning in another care system. So then we grow in the scale, and eventually you can also get on national frameworks, which means that you're commissioned and reimbursed nationally in the United Kingdom, which is what we've seen in other areas such as diabetes care, and where dementia now being such a big political priority in the United Kingdom, we do foresee that that will be the case within a few years, and that we will have a big hand to play in that as well.
Okay. If you look at the competitors in the UK market, could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so in the UK, what exists there, we've seen is that there are a couple of associations there that are, or there are a number of different organizations that are providing cognitive stimulation therapy in terms of the classical analog form with the therapist in the group session. And there has been developed one digital tool to help that delivery in one of the UK organizations called Memory Matters, which is a kind of a non-profit organization. That product was developed primarily with the purpose of doing research, and it's not a medical device. It's not something that is being carried into the market by any commercial entity such as Brain Plus. And looking at the features and capabilities of such a product, that does not come close to what we have with our version 2 in terms of resolving the pains of the therapist. So that while that is a competition, potentially, just to tell you where the positioning is, otherwise, competition is mostly in the form not of medical therapies, but in the form of activity-based therapies that don't have any medical claims associated with them, because there's a number of activity-type products that are being sold for dementia care. And I think these products are generally welcome in terms of something that can stimulate people with dementia, but they can compete as a medical intervention with a product that we're putting on the market.
Okay, I see. Good answer. In December, you announced that Anders Herfstrand had decided to resign as chairman and member of the board. And last week, you announced that Tim Jürgens is your new candidate. How is he going to contribute?
Yeah, where Anders did a great job and came with a strong experience in public companies, his experience was also more of a classic pharma life science background and not a digital health background. And this is where Tim comes with a unique blend where he both has the strong experience in life sciences from pharma, from both Roche and Bayer, but he has also been one of the premier, let's say, digital health and therapeutics investors in that industry for a good while now, and is recognized as one of the experts. He's also kind of an expert on the EIT health advisory, like advisors evaluating EIT health projects. So a known voice within industry. So what we were looking for was somebody with even more precise, relevant experience for the journey that we are on, which is this mix primarily of being a digital therapy, also having experience in the medical field and the pharmaceutical field, and helping us basically guide that journey in terms of entering larger markets like the UK, and also making sure that our investor and funding plan is aligned with digital healthcare investors.
Okay. I'm curious about United States. I couldn't see you mentioned the United States to enter that market. How come?
So the United States is the market where there is the second largest number of CST trained therapists, where there are about 6,000 in the UK, there are about 3,000 in the US. But as people who have made business in the US and have made business in Europe knows, the US is a big beast to tackle and is very, very expensive. So it's very important to not go there until you have the finances and you're prepared for it. So while we are in dialogue already with the US, you can say, experts in cognitive stimulation therapy, we are focusing on delivering, succeeding, and scaling first with a very clear focus on the United Kingdom, which not only the most attractive market, it's also closer, easier accessible, it's more mature, and it's easier to scale within because it's actually much more uniform in its approach than the United States. But that said, the United States on the roadmap, as you saw it, down the line, will be one of the next major attractive markets for us.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kim. And I know you speak almost perfect Swedish. Så jag säger tack så mycket på svenska till dig och lycka till i framtiden.
Detsamma och många tack.